Meeting, please
Hello,
come to
Commissioner
order.
Llanos here.
Commissioner Buell,
Okay.
Commissioner Wolf.
I think we have a quorum. Clerk, please read the roll.
Bella,
Here?
Adel, Avedisian,
Here.
Buell,
Here.
Bush,
Here.
Curry,
Here.
Drake,
Here.
Gardeau,
Here.
Gentile,
Here.
Healy,
Here.
Hoffman, Hoheb, I see Commissioner Hoheb's on the WebEx. Holloway,
Here.
Yono,
Here.
LaChance, Lester,
Here.
Lewis, Magnan,
Here.
Maniscalco, Mandyke,
Here.
Murata, Payne,
Here.
Patel,
Here.
Potowski, Salemi,
Here.
Sweezy,
Here.
Taylor,
Here.
Torres,
Here.
Vecino,
Here.
Wolf,
Here.
Carrier. We have a quorum.
Okay, pledge allegiance, please. Commissioner Gentile, could you come up, please, to be sworn in?
Can you raise your right hand? Do you solemnly swear that you will faithfully uphold, according to law, your duties as a Commissioner of the Metropolitan District of Hartford County to the best of your ability? Congratulations.
Approval of the meeting minutes of July the 11th, is that pledge? Yeah, okay. July the 11th, 2022. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second. Are there any additions or deletions? If not, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Public comments relative to agenda items? No public. Item number 6, report regarding the status of excess Opeb contributions reconciliation. Is this a report or?
Yeah, Bob Barron.
Bob Barron.
Sure. Good evening, Bob Barron, Chief Financial Officer. I actually brought some hard copies if I can pass some around. Let's see. Sorry, I'm having trouble advancing the slide here. Kelly, any help?
Al, did you have a?
No. I got an extra over here, too.
Oh, there we go. We'll do it the manual way. So this is only a 3-slide presentation. It's a quick update to bring you up to speed on some of our reconciliation work with Anthem and the Opeb issue that first came to light when Becky Seelman presented her Opeb and pension valuations back at the end of June. We're going to give you an update. The first bullet just says, show you our preliminary results. I did want to report back to the board that your July authorization to move $5 million from the Webster cash account into the Wilmington investment account was executed on July 12th. At our next PP&I meeting, they will decide on where those funds should be invested and give those instructions to DeHop. I also wanted to remind you of the success we had with Milliman on the contribution to the Opeb fund. You'll see there in the third bullet point, for 3 years running, we've been contributing north of $10 million. And yet what Becky presented to you for the upcoming year is only $7.8 million. I don't know if you knew, but our controller was out this year, and so I was more intimately involved with the audit. And when the audits, or the accounting staff brought to me the spending for OPEB for 2021, and it said $4.1 million, I thought, oh, that can't be true. I reviewed the OPEB analysis, and we've been contributing north of $10 million in each of the last 3 years. So I reached out to Milliman and asked them to investigate why their contribution was so high when the last 3 years we had 4.1, I think it was 5.2 and 5.5, 3 years running. So ballpark $5 million. Well, in that investigation, Becky Seelman worked with Chris Monroe. Chris Monroe is our new consultant at USI, and together they worked with Anthem to develop some reporting that gave them enough information to reduce our contribution in the next year. But it also identified possibly that we had been splitting up the Anthem bill incorrectly. And so let's go to the next slide, and let me just give you a little history. Our OPEB fund pays for retiree medical and prescription expenses to 2 vendors. We have Zenith that pays the Medicare expenses for our employees 65 years old and older, but then we also have Anthem that pays for the employees that are under 65. But remember, Anthem is also covering the insurance for our active employees. So we get these big bills every week, and we have to split them between the retirees and the actives. Now, of course, the pension, or the OPEB trust fund pays for the retirees, and then our internal service fund pays for the active employees. So we reconciled 3.5 years worth of weekly invoices and have identified that 2 of the 16 categories that they provide us every week may be in question. Historically, we had been charging them to active employees, and we discovered that perhaps they belong to the retiree employees, and this is what we wanted to investigate further. So the one category, we've clearly identified that, yes, it is a for 3.5 years, it totaled to $6.1 million. We verified that they're retiree expenditures, and the active funds have been paying for them. So we'll have to reclass that eventually. But there's a second category that totals $2.7 million that's still in question. I just want to impress upon you, this was a incredibly detailed amount of work. We did 3.5 years worth of weekly reconciliations for 16 categories, and we're almost done with the full recommendation where we can come back to you and make a recommendation on what we should move. You know, that big cash balance we have in the Opeb account that we reported really owes some money to the active accounts. So let's take a look at, and this is the last slide. Let's take a look at some information that you had previously seen. At the end of 2021, there was a total of $15.9 million in the Opeb trust. We keep the money in two buckets. We have the Webster Bank bucket that is intended to pay the bills, you know, for Zenith over 65 and Anthem under 65 retirees. In the Wilmington Trust that was established by this board in 2019, I think we first contributed in 2020, you could see what the contribution amounts are off to the right. So that's when we began to question, why do we have $15.1 million in the Webster cash account when we anticipate only funding what we need to pay the bills for the given year? How did that happen? And it appears as if some retiree expenditures that would have normally been taken from this Webster account were actually being paid by the active account. So let's skip forward to 6 months later, give you 6.5 months later, and 7 months later, I guess it's August now, right? And give you the current values of what's in the Webster account. There's $18.2 million in there now. Just quick math, we had 15.1 at the end of the year. Our contribution for all of Opeb was 10.7. 500 went into Wilmington, 10.2 went into Webster. So 10.2 was added to that 15.1, and then minus all the expenses, and minus the $5 million that you authorized us to move into Wilmington now has $18.2 million. And you'll notice that the Wilmington Trust is, you know, about $5 million higher, right, because we moved the money in. So what everybody's interested in is that surplus in that Webster cash account. So I took a look at the first half of 2022 and said, well, how much did we spend on retiree expenses? And the total is $3.9 million. Now that includes 2.7 from Anthem for the under 65 and 1.2 for Zenith for the over 65. So $3.9 million. Well, I think it's reasonable to assume that maybe the second half will be about the same 3.9 million. So what happens if I take that $3.9 million, you know, for the estimated second and a half expenses and take it away from that cash balance in Webster of 18.2? How much money would we have left? And the difference is 14.3. This is the very last bullet. So what could we do with the 14.3? Remember, we've already moved $5 million into Wilmington, so this is 14.3 million. Well, we know that there's $6.1 million of that we've reconciled, that we determined is owed from the pension trust into the active account. So that 6.1 has to come out. But that's only through, that's 3.5 years, 19, 20, 21, and half a year of 22. Well, we need to take care of the other half of 22, which is $2.2 million. And then we have that on the previous page. Remember, there were two categories that we needed to reconcile that totaled 8.8 million. Well, there's a second category that's unreconciled yet. We have not definitively determined that that amount belongs to either category yet. And so, but possibly, it's for retirees too. So if we take those three amounts, the 6.1, the 2.2, and the 2.7, how much of that 14.3 million do we have left over? And the answer is $3.3 million. Now, what we would recommend to you is we leave a adequate amount for a reserve. If we have an $8 million spend, a 20% reserve, leave about $1.6 million in Webster, just for unanticipated future expenditures. And the rest could go into Wilmington, just as you approved the $5 million. And lastly, I just want to give you an idea. I think a big question would be, how in the world, when you received these 16 categories, did you not put them into the right buckets, either actives or retirees? And as we looked at the reports, the naming convention of these categories are really vague. Some of them are duplicated. Even some of the, remember I said there's 16 and we looked at 2? We actually verified the other 14 as well. Because of the naming convention, they were so, duplicative and nondescript. But we verified the 14 and we were left with only the 2. And that $2.7 million unreconciled, the name of that account is default. So the accounting staff had just, as a default, booked it to the active employees. But what we've asked for from Anthem is to, we've spent 5 weeks working on all the detail and reconciling everything with them, but I spoke or exchanged emails with a new regional vice president, Mark Quinn, for Anthem, and he promised that he's going to dedicate the resources to give us what we need. What we need is 2 bills on a weekly basis, completely separated: medical, prescription, stop loss, administrative fees, all of the categories. We need 2 invoices. We need one for our retirees and one for our active employees, because it's incredibly burdensome for our staff to have to take all this detail and reconcile it. But I think we're in a position to objectively make a recommendation on what truly is owed to the active accounts very soon, in addition to fixing it for the future. And just one final thought is Anthem's contract is currently out for bid for January of 2023. They are very anxious to provide us exactly what we need. In my email to the new regional vice president, I said this will be a requirement of the successful bidder for the upcoming award for our insurance coverage, is that the new company be able to provide this split. So I'm confident in relatively short order we're going to be able to come with a recommendation to you from what we need to move from Opeb to the active accounts. But that's our quick little update for you.
All right.
Mr. Chairman,
I'm sorry, Commissioner Sweezy,
it's all right.
because they don't know, on the phone, they don't.
Commissioner Sweezy, could I ask Bob a question, Bill?
Sure.
2020, we had approximately a $5 million surplus in the OPEC.
That's right.
21, approximately $5 million. 22, approximately $5 million. A report that you gave me on 7/11 of 2022, annualized, if these numbers are right that you gave me, we would have another $5 million, which gives you $20 million as of 12/31 of 2022. We took $5 million of that and put it into the OPEC managed account at Wilmington with David Lee DeHaab.
Yeah.
You're saying that we go back to 2020 and that approximately $5 million surplus, we have to put that into the active account? And then, if so, were there surpluses in 2021 or 22 or deficits on the other side where you want us to put that money? The way I look at it, we've overcharged our towns and our ratepayers that $20 million over the last 4 years, and it was just caught. I don't know how you can have a $5 million surplus year after year, and at budget time not bring it to us. Okay, that's not my question. That was just a statement.
Yeah.
My question is, we have $15 million left after we moved the $5 million at the last board meeting that I made the motion to move the $5 million. Those were surpluses from, it'll be 3 years ago. Why would we take that and put it into whatever you said, the active account?
Well,
So is there a surplus once we do that?
sure. Oh, okay. I mean, I understand I understand your train of thought, but I need to make it very clear. We did not overpay or overcharge the towns and city in either our ad valorem or water rate. Remember that we need to pay for the medical and prescription promises we made to our retirees and our active employees. So all that funding comes from our water rates and our ad valorem. It's just that we were putting it into the wrong bucket. So the amount charged was the amount that we needed to raise, but we put
So there
too
was a
much
deficit-
into the
there was a
OPEB.
deficit.
Ray,
That's right.
Ray, let him
Yeah, so,
finish, then you can ask another question.
so that's important to note. I think you make a good point, though, because if we were determining our budget for the active accounts based on what we were being charged, and if what we were being charged included some retirees, if that budget was overstated, we will bring before you a lower dollar amount for the upcoming 2023. That is a legitimate point. But the amount raised was not in excess of what we owed for the combined active and retiree employees.
So could you give me a breakdown in the next month on how much deficit we had each year for 2020, 2021, and 2022 on the other side?
Like versus the budget
Yes,
deficit.
right,
Sure.
yeah, versus if we budgeted 10 million and we spent 12.5. You're saying we spent more in that other account, but less in the OPEC account, where we had the surplus.
Okay, keep in mind, this is going back to finance and to PP&I, relative
So
to,
you come to PP&I, show us the deficits in the budget on
Right.
those years. Thank you,
I will.
thank you.
I just want to clarify.
Chief Executive
because
Officer.
I think a little confused. When Bob says that this money should go back to the active account, so obviously, this money is the MDC board's money, it's the town's money. So if the board so chooses to take this $10.4 million and give it back to the towns by way of budget, by way of anything, you can do that. So the question becomes, in 2023, how much do we need of that $10.4 million to actually do whatever the board chooses? Do you want a 0% increase? Do you want a 2% increase? So that money is the budget of the NDC, which in turn is the towns. So you'll decide at finance and PP&I
Right.
what to do with that $10.4 million.
further, anybody? Commissioner Payne.
Thank you. Could we also get a report who the auditor was for the MDC for the last 5 years, and why didn't they pick this up the last 3 years? If it was the same auditor from before, they should have known about it in 4 years ago or 5 years ago. So why wasn't this caught 3 years ago, brought to our budget, and said, hey, we don't need to put in $10 to $11 million in our OPEC, we're only spending 5, we can reduce our budget. I'd like to know why our auditors never picked this up, or our staff.
We'll provide that information, and that, I think Commissioner Mendyke asked similar questions of that as well at the Board of Finance. So
Thank you.
we'll provide that information.
Further questions?
Just as
Go ahead,
a point
Bob.
of clarification, when I said to move the 6.1 that we've identified and potentially another 2.2, that $8.3 million will go into the internal service fund. The internal service fund is designed to pay the bills for sewer operations, water operations, and for the employees that are charged to capital. So it's not designed to have a balance. When that money is moved in, we will have a positive, in this case, what did I say, 6.1 and 2.2, $8.3 million that we will not have to put in for 2022 because, so you'll be able to reduce the amount that you normally contribute in for 2022 because the actives now have
All I
that
wanted to know.
balance.
You answered it. Thank
Okay,
you.
good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bob.
Thank you, Bob.
Thank you.
Okay.
You gotta go through to get him to say.
Item 7, I'm going to relinquish the chair to the vice chairperson.
Chairman, before you
Yeah.
do, can I ask you a question?
Right.
I'd like to know if you have a conflict of interest with Attorney Sandler or his firm, and whether or not you presently or in the last 2 years that Sandler or his firm have done any work for you, personally or for one of your businesses.
Yes, they have.
Thank you.
Go ahead. Sit here. Sit here.
Please.
All right, item number 7, consideration and potential action regarding outstanding 2021 and 2022 Sandler and Mara PC legal invoices. Commissioner Taylor.
Madam Chairman, I wish to make a motion that this matter be referred to the Internal Audit Committee. The scope and scale of the inquiry, I am going to ask that our counsel please read what that would be, what would be involved there. I just wish to remind the members of the board that Attorney Stone is counsel to the board, and that we do have the right to consult him and to refer, to deal with him in terms of matters relating such as this one. So with that.
If I may, Madam Chairperson. Thank you. Attorney Chris Stone, I did speak with the maker of the motion prior to the motion being made about the substance of the motion. Simply put, it is a referral to the Internal Audit Committee, but in doing so, this board can also set the parameters of what the board or that commission will discuss, investigate, examine, and evaluate, and also set a time frame within which they should begin their deliberations. You don't have to do the latter. As to the former, I think it's the best practice is to define the scope of their work. It's not limited to this scope. They can expand the scope as they move along in their process, but at least the initial scope that's been I'm recommending, and with the consultation of Commissioner Taylor, he is also recommending, and the only reason I'm reading it is because I wouldn't ask him to read this, my handwriting. So with that, it would certainly be a consideration of the agenda item, the outstanding invoices. It would be a verification of the work performed. It would be an investigation as to whether the work and invoices were properly authorized by an MDC representative with authority to do so. and it would also consider whether the invoices constitute an obligation on the part of the MDC to pay. And then, as I said, in addition to that, anything in their doings that they feel is appropriate to look into. And that should be added to the motion that was submitted by Commissioner Taylor and needs to be seconded.
Second.
Sorry, who was it? Who seconded?
Commissioner Torres.
Okay, thank you. All right. This is a debatable motion.
It's debatable as to whether to refer. Yes, thank you very much. If I might, again, Attorney
Yes,
Stone,
Attorney Stone.
I don't mean to interfere, but this is an interesting concept. But, so Robert's Rules of Order has a nice little summary chart of what motions are debatable, what motions are not debatable. In their summary chart, Robert's Rules of Orders, which we follow, indicates that this motion is debatable. But in the text of the actual rules, there's a limitation on what can be the subject of debate. So I'm going to read verbatim what Robert's Rules provide. First, it is debatable. Second, the debate can extend only to the desirability of committing the main question and to the appropriate details of the motion to commit, as explained below, which we've added to the motion, Commissioner Taylor's motion. However, not to the merits of the main question. Now, there was some debate going back and forth on whether the merits of the main motion could be, or the debate on the merits of the main motion could be included in this portion of the proceeding. Clearly, under Robert's Rules, it cannot. There may be some items that you might want to bring in the debate to the attention of the committee, which don't necessarily go to the merits, but maybe some reason why you would prefer either to refer or not to refer. That being said, there is another part of the agenda that is not controlled by Robert's Rules, which is very general and non-specific as to what can be discussed. But if this motion should pass, that would not preclude a discussion, as the committee members may feel fit, under the opportunity for commissioners' questions and comments, which is farther down in the agenda. So I don't want you to think that anyone's being limited in what they can or cannot say on this matter. At least now, it'll be open again later. And with that, I turn it back over to the chair.
Thank you, Attorney Stone. Commissioner Sweezy.
I'm against the motion. In the last week, we've been given hundreds of pages of documents, or dozens of documents, where we've received bills for the last 5 years for things that this board has really never authorized. But I just want to talk about the last year and a half. There was a motion made in August 17th of this year and November 22nd of this year that said there would be no more spending. The spending continues to go on. I see on the screen there's a number of mayors and town managers that are on this because I guess staff mailed out the link for this meeting. I think they should hear what's going on here. The way, we're talking $80,000 in the past year. We're talking $14,000. Then there's $12,785 that was paid. The $14K hasn't been paid. But I think I want to understand this. I don't understand these bills. I want to be able to ask Chris questions tonight. I want to be able to ask Scott questions. I'm not saying I'm against sending it to the audit committee, but I would like to have these questions answered. Who authorized these things? Why, after the motion that I made on August 17th of 2022, within 21, I'm sorry, days after that motion, people were still talking to the attorney who's been giving us these bills, and he's been charging us.
If I
so
might.
That's why, okay, I'll end. I'm sorry, Chris.
No, that's okay.
I'm opposed to this. I feel the full commission should be able to ask questions and hear what's going on.
And I understand, or we understand, or the chair understands, you're doing that now instead of later.
And I'm
There
not
will be
saying
an
I'm against
There will be an
at a later
opportunity.
date.
There will be an opportunity to do just that. It's just not now, at least not during this part of the proceeding tonight. Perhaps at the, later in the agenda, or perhaps certainly at the audit committee meeting, or internal audit committee meeting.
We have the members of the audit committee, please? I don't even know who's on the audit committee exactly. I know I am. I know a couple, Chris, you did tell me. I'm not sure exactly who's
Okay, the
on.
district clerk has that. He'll read that out.
Okay, thank you.
The audit committee is Commissioners Curry, Gardeau, Hoffman, Lewis, Mandyke, Payne, Sweezy, Taylor, Vecino.
I'm recusing myself.
Point of clarification.
Yes,
Through you, Madam Chair.
Commissioner Mandy?
Is Commissioner Taylor recusing himself from the audit committee? I'm just,
Audit committee,
for this specific issue?
that is correct.
Okay, so not
No,
dropping
not-
off the audit committee?
No, I did not
just
say
for
that. I
this.
said I'm recusing myself for this particular issue.
Okay, I'm sorry, I just wanted to make sure I clarified that.
So, Mr. Clerk, you'll note that Commissioner Taylor is recusing himself from the audit committee's investigation of this issue.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Sweezy, are you done?
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Payne?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. If
We all use the microphones?
if Commissioner Taylor is recusing himself from the Audit Commission, then this motion that he has made is probably invalid. He should be recusing himself along with Commissioner Salemi until this matter is settled. So we do not have a motion on the floor. Thank you.
Could we, go ahead.
There is a motion on the floor. If you want to make a point of order as to whether he can make the motion or not, you can make that, and you can have a discussion. You can, let me finish. You can have a discussion and debate and a vote on that. He has merely informed the board that he is recusing himself from consideration as a member of the audit committee. Tonight, it's not even on the merits of the issue. It's simply a referral to that audit committee. It's not on the merits.
Well, if I could finish, Madam Chairman,
Well, no.
You can make a point of order.
yeah, point of order, I believe he doesn't have the authority to make a motion. He has a conflict of interest. His name, along with Commissioner Salemi's names, are on these invoices, and they shouldn't be part of this discussion.
Excuse me, Commissioner, if we could refrain from
Refrain from what?
making statements about other members.
I'm telling you that Commissioner Taylor's name and Commissioner Salemi's names are on these invoices. And if Commissioner DeBella recused himself, then both of those other commissioners should be recusing themselves also. That's what I'm
Is
saying.
there any further comment on the point of order? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
You vote on the opposed.
Any opposed to the point of order? One person. So a lot of people didn't vote.
Yeah, so what we'll do, point of order carries. So I'm going to ask the second to withdraw the second. Second, Cal. Commissioner Taylor, withdraw your motion.
Sure.
Any other motions?
Well,
He can make the motion.
I'd like to make the motion that it be referred to the audit committee with the additional language as stated by Corporation Counsel.
Moving the same motion as Commissioner
I
Taylor.
am.
Okay, thank you.
I will second.
We have a second. Thank you. All right, back on the main motion. Commissioner Payne, you had the floor. Are you done? Okay, thank you. Commissioner Bush.
I have more of a question. What authority does the Internal Audit Committee have? Who would be allowed to sit in on the meeting? And what would the benefit be of reducing the brain power of the room to a smaller group to solve this problem?
Yeah, sure, thank you. Attorney Chris Stone, I guess I'll go with the easy question first. It is a standing, Internal Audit Committee is a standing committee of the NDC, as with all our committees here. Non-members of the committee are welcome to participate, attend, and participate and ask questions. That's been historically, as long as I've been here, the practice of the NBC. Ultimately, the Internal Audit Committee will make its findings, file a report with its findings and recommendations to the district board at some point. And the other question, Commissioner Bush, sorry.
I don't remember my own question, but I have another one. Is it also a public meeting?
Yes.
What is the benefit
Oh, that was your question about why the smaller group. Oftentimes, and this is stated in Robert's Rules and other treatises on organizational meetings, oftentimes matters that are the committee, and again, that's why you vote tonight on whether or not to refer, but the committee may determine that a smaller group looking into what might be a complex issue is more advantageous than dealing with at the investigatory stage with a larger group. I would also say that specifically, the audit, we're not forming a special committee here. We have a standing committee that deals specifically, and I said in my email to the group yesterday, deals specifically, it falls within their scope of work, their duties, their obligations, and their reporting responsibility back to the full board. So not only do we have at least if this were to pass, there's obviously a sense that a smaller group is more advantageous than a larger, and that this falls right within the scope of the authority of the Internal Audit Committee.
Commissioner Mandyke?
Thank you very much, Madam Chairwoman. Commissioner Mandyke here. I just had a couple of questions regarding the motion. The first is, when I asked for this meeting for us to consider after it had been canceled, I requested that Attorney Sandler be present at the meeting. Is he present at this meeting?
Is Attorney Sandler on the phone?
He's
I
not
believe
present physically.
he's not here.
Okay. And a follow-up, if I may, Madam Chair?
Yes.
Have anyone, I guess, Mr. Stone or Mr. Jellison, have you heard, through the chair, have you heard whether or not Mr. Sandler was going to attend? Has there been a communication to inform him to come this evening or invite him to the meeting this evening?
John, if you would, the invite went from District Clerk Myrtle, so why don't you respond to that, John?
Yes. I emailed Jim Sandler on Friday, gave him a copy of the agenda, and expressed that his attendance was requested. He responded asking, is it an in-person meeting or via Zoom, WebEx? I told him it's mostly in person. There's a remote option, and he responded with thank you. And I had requested that he notify us if he was attending, but he didn't state one way or the other if he was.
Thank you. And one last, if I could, Madam Chair. Just for a point of information, I originally requested this, that we continue this meeting today or have this meeting tonight on 7/19, following our last district board meeting. Commissioner Payne had several questions about Attorney Sandler's bills. On 7/19, I had emailed the chairperson, and at that time, I had not received, or shall I say, I emailed him and asked him whether or not he or Commissioner Salemi directed any outside people or companies to do work on behalf of MDC with the promise of payment. I did not receive a response. On 7/26, I emailed again. I did not receive a response. And that, after that, following, once the meeting was canceled, I asked for the meeting to be reinstated for this evening's. Just a point of clarification.
Thank you, Commissioner Gardeau.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. We called the special meeting tonight to talk about this, not to kick the can. Right. And I believe that we should, I'm going to vote against the sending it to the Internal Audit Committee because we're all here. We didn't have to be here, and so we'll see what happens.
Any other questions or comments? Commissioner Payne.
Yes, I have two questions. I'd like to know if any commissioners received a call from the chairman in the last week discussing today's meeting. Also, would like to know from our district council if he made any calls to commissioners concerning or possibly encouraging people to vote for an audit. Was there any communications? So we're fully transparent.
Well, I can answer for me. Any communications that I sent out were sent out to everybody, as you know, from an email that you received yesterday. I did receive inquiries from commissioners over the past week or so about options for tonight. I laid out the options. I did not advocate for any particular option. That's not my job to do. But this was an option. There were other options, motions to postpone, motion to postpone to a definite date. All those options were discussed, and a motion, quite frankly, to move forward. And we were prepared to move forward. So that's my side of it. I don't know, I cannot speak for anyone else.
Well, I consider
Commissioner Curry?
Yes, Commissioner?
And, yes, I initiated calls to both Bill and to Chris, and they did return my calls. And actually, I'm the one that suggested that not being sure which committee it should go to and possibly audit. Neither Bill nor Chris pushed for any committee during my conversations with them.
Thank you. And I did speak with both Attorney Stone and Chairman DeBella in my role as vice chair to discuss process, and today a lot about parliamentary procedure.
Thank you. And then just finally, like some of the other commissioners, I'm not in favor of this going to the audit committee. We had 5 or 6 commissioners that called this meeting that have brought it to their mayors and town managers. It's an extremely important issue, and we owe it to our ratepayers and our member towns to get this settled in front of the full board here. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Bush.
Yeah, I just want to point out some what I think are important pieces of information. So I don't know who has read the volumes of emails and seen all the bills, but there's quite a bit of reading, probably 2 or 3 hours of reading to get through it all and to kind of understand it. And I think I'm just going to sum it up and just for my own personal benefit and for the people that are maybe on the phone who haven't had an opportunity. But there was a motion put forth by Commissioner Sweezy. We voted on it as a group that no more money was going to be spent on the South Meadows, period. It was not a negotiable thing. It wasn't a maybe thing. It was no more money is going to be spent. We all voted, and it was approved in 2021, I believe, near the end of 2021. I don't know the exact date. That's not the main point. So I took the opportunity to look at all of the invoices from Attorney Sandler, irregardless of who attended the meeting, even though it seemed that the same people were at every meeting. And just to clarify, there were 79 meetings between January 1st and June 22nd. 79 meetings. Some meetings happened every single day of the week. April 25th, 26th, 27th, 28th, 29th, every single day. The total of those bills is when we're running a big company, that sometimes it feels insignificant when you're talking about a small number, but I think the idea that any money would be spent that it was not authorized by this group or by the chairman or the council would be inappropriate. As of January 3rd to June 22nd, there was $58,313 worth of legal bills for 79 meetings. And there are at least 3 or 4 or 5.
Just a cough.
There are at least a few dates that actually were duplicated on more than one invoice. So I think that also is important. And additionally, one other thing, there's people's names who are on those invoices that have flat out denied attending the meetings. So the idea that we're going to push this to a smaller subcommittee, to me, doesn't make any sense. I don't think, why would anyone want to vote for that? Why would everyone here not want the truth to come out, right? If anyone is voting to send this to a smaller committee, they must have some agenda. I don't want to say that. But there's, anyway, I just don't understand why we wouldn't ferret it out with everyone here. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Representative Gentile. I'm sorry, Representative. Wrong job, sorry. Commissioner Gentile.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The reason I support referring this is because, in my view, the only way to get to the bottom of whether or not Attorney Sandler was authorized is to interview Attorney Sandler. without that, we can talk all night, we're not going to get that answer.
We have documents.
We're supposed to be here.
Say it.
Commissioner?
That doesn't answer the question.
Come in.
Commissioner, yes. Yep.
Matt? Okay. With all due respect, I take exception to that last comment you made.
Apologize for that
Commissioner.
comment.
My past experience being on boards and commissions and that sort of thing, when controversial issues come up and you have a very large group of people, sometimes it gets very difficult to get to the finite facts and recommendations coming out from that, which is why I am of the opinion that I would like to have that smaller group, the audit committee, take a look at this, interview the attorney, get to the bottom of all of this, digest all of this information, which is, tons and tons of emails and paper and stuff, and make some sense of it and come back and say, this is what we found. These are the areas we think there are problems with, and, if there's a recommendation to be made, then make a report, then we can discuss those issues or those facts, rather than to, I've been here a year and a half. I guess some of these things may have occurred prior to, so I don't have that historical information or knowledge. I have a lot of confidence in the people that are on these committees. We have a number of committees that review these things and come back to the board, after they've taken a very close, look at these things, and I value that information, that opinion, that discussion done at that committee level comes back to the whole group, and then the group can discuss those findings or those recommendations in the committee. That's why I'm recommending that we look at doing it this way, so we have some sense of order and organization in how we do these things, as opposed to throwing it out there. Could be here for 10 hours, just, back and forth, and never come to any kind of conclusion. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Patel?
Madam Chairman?
1 minute, Commissioner Curry. Commissioner Patel has the
Mr.
floor.
Patel here. Procedurally, MDC has not violated any rule. They did not issue PO. Somebody sends you the bill. That doesn't mean MDC administration failed in procedurally. So therefore, more detailed investigation has to occur, and that can occur in a small group. Everybody can participate. I'm not in many committees. I participate, I raise questions, and everybody answers the questions. So my suggestion is, let's do the right thing, and because what you are doing is, you debate everything, but there is nothing wrong has been done by MDC administration as of today.
Thank you. Commissioner Curry?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. First, I couldn't switch my screens to get to my mute button quick enough. I would like my vote to be reflected in opposition to the point of order that was raised.
Okay, Mr. Clerk. Okay. Thank you. We have that.
And secondly, I'm just appalled, I guess, at the comments being made, even though they're withdrawn, that we're not going to get the truth from a committee, suggesting maybe we should do away with all committees because truth doesn't come from committees. I'm just flabbergasted, and it's such an unconscionable statement. My opinion, we should only be discussing the merits of referring it to the committee that was made in the motion. I'm still not certain if audit is the right committee. I think it probably is the closest of those being right. I think committees serve a purpose. We survive, as in any organization survives, with process. And you go to the committee, you gather the information, you ask the questions, the body as a whole can contribute and participate and ask questions or forward questions. But once all that information is gathered, then the report is presented to the body as a whole, and a full deliberation on the merits of that information presented should take place. So, thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you. Commissioner Healy?
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. I just wanted to add, echo the comments of Commissioner Gentile, Commissioner Torres, Commissioner Patel, and now Commissioner Curry. I believe that sending this to a committee is, in fact, the way we are prepared to proceed with these issues. And I think the folks who have expressed opposition to that, I understand where you're coming from. I understand that this is an important issue, that the full board is interested in it, wants to know what has happened, and I think I would submit can be involved in that process. I am not a member of the Audit Committee. If this motion carries and the Audit Committee goes forward, I would plan to attend those meetings and be interested in what they're doing for the same reasons that everyone has said the full board should be interested in this matter, because it is an important one. It does raise it raises important issues. And my belief is that that committee will have, as Commissioner Gentile said, the ability to ask Mr. Sandler to come forward and answer the questions that this body has raised and that Commissioner Bush has raised. Those are questions that should be asked, that should be answered, and I would submit that that's the appropriate forum to do that. And anybody who's not on that committee is welcome to attend. I would plan to do that, and I'd encourage any other commissioner who feels that way to attend for those same reasons, and hopefully that this board can get to the bottom of it in that fashion. So, thank you.
Commissioner Taylor?
Yes, a couple of things here. First of all, I wish to express very clearly, I take exception to a number of the comments that were made here. Yes, it was rather interesting for me to discover that I was included in some of the bills by Mr. Sandler. I do not retain lawyers. I do not have the authority to retain lawyers, nor do I know the reason that I was included in a bill. But yet and still, on its face, because you have pieces of paper, you're going to jump to a number of conclusions. Now, I'm of the opinion that this matter should be reported to the Internal Audit Committee. That is the appropriate place. I'm also of the opinion that because my name was put in those bills, that I should recuse myself on this particular issue from the Internal Audit Committee. That is appropriate. Now, you know, having spent much of my life in a corporate setting and dealing with boards and other matters, board matters, I think I have a pretty good idea of what the hell is happening and going on. And more particularly, I think that we have got to handle this. We're a $200 million corporation, and we need to handle this in an appropriate fashion. Once again, that is why I have recused myself, because there is information floating around out there that I have no idea of where it came from and why he put me in the bill. As I said to you before, I do not retain lawyers. I do not have that authority to retain lawyers. And I would not take that upon myself to do so. So once again, I think that this matter is appropriately referred to the Internal Audit Committee. We all have the right to go there to listen and to make comments, and if need be called upon. So once again, I would respectfully submit that it is appropriately referred to that.
We call the question.
That's a motion to call the question. It requires a second and a two-thirds vote.
Fine.
Is there a second? All right, we'll have,
Debatable, John, right?
not debatable. So a
It's
roll
not
call,
debatable.
please, Mr. Clerk?
Before I start,
I don't understand what's going on.
I'm sorry, Maureen, but there's an emotion.
Question on this motion that it goes to the audit committee. Stop discussion.
Commissioner, can
One
we
way or the
please,
other.
from the floor, from the chair, please?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
You all
So-
set, Rick?
Yes.
You got it, okay.
Before I start the roll call, I just want to verify if any other commissioners have called in. Have Commissioners Adel, Murata, or Potowski called in to the meeting? Okay. Commissioner Avedisian?
No.
Buell? Buell?
Just make sure.
We're voting, in effect, we're voting to end the debate on this and move to a vote.
So an aye vote is in favor of ending discussion, and a no vote is to continue discussion.
Right.
All right, I'll start again. Avedisian?
No.
Buell? Bush?
No.
Curry?
Yes.
Drake?
No.
Gardeau?
Yes.
Gentile?
Yes.
Healy?
No.
Hoffman?
No.
Holloway?
Yes.
Yono?
Abstain.
Lester?
Yes.
Lewis?
Yes.
Magnan?
No.
Mandyke?
No.
Payne?
Yes.
Patel?
Yes, ending.
Salemi?
Yes.
Sweezy?
Yes.
Taylor?
Yes.
Torres?
Yes.
Vecino?
Yes.
Wolf?
Yes.
The ayes have it.
Okay. Yes, so I guess we will move to a vote. Mr. Clerk? Oh, I'm sorry, Commissioner.
Is it possible to add to the third question that the district council kind of sketched out in terms of the framework of the referral? The third related to the billing?
If I may.
Sure.
Well, first of all, we just had a motion to call the question. It's been seconded. Unless there's any objection, I have no problem with hearing it, but if there's no objection, I would suggest that you can add it as an amendment now. And
Okay, could we expand the question to include whether Attorney Sandler's bills were timely, appropriate, complete, and reasonable?
Commissioner Bush?
Objection.
No objection?
No
Okay.
objection.
So, all right, so this is a friendly amendment that would be added to the motion.
I'm sorry, Commissioner, would you mind just repeating that?
Were Attorney Sandler's bills timely, complete, accurate, and reasonable?
Okay, thank you.
So there's no, excuse me, Eric, we
Point of
cannot
order,
debate.
confusion,
Okay,
or,
point of order.
Yeah.
Yes.
so what just occurred was we agreed as a two-thirds majority voted to stop the discussion and to send it immediately to vote,
No, to vote. Correct, yes.
To vote on that issue,
to whether it goes to
internal audit.
Internal Audit Committee. And if it goes to Internal Audit Committee, we're going to, that committee, are they limited
No.
to what, like, to the ideas that were just put forward? Or to the things that are previously discussed?
they're charged to consider at least those now 4 things.
Okay.
And if they choose to, as a committee, decide to delve into other issues that come up, that's up to them.
Okay, so that being said, I had 4 questions that I wanted to have addressed.
I'm sorry, sir.
Can I add that to her amendment? I mean, they're pretty simple. I mean, I don't know, I don't know what's going on here.
Again,
Point of order.
Down.
we,
Order here.
just so we're clear.
I think,
The port, I'm
point
sorry.
of order is that, as a maker of the motion, I can accept the additions or not. I believe that's my understanding on the Robert rules.
Well, the issue is that we had a motion to call the question, to end debate.
I understand all of that.
It's
and
been
we had-
approved. I know Commissioner Gentile
there
with
was
leave
no-
of the chamber, we allowed that. If you want to allow that for
Yes,
Commissioner
as-
Bush, if there's no objection, that's fine.
But what I'm saying is that I have no objection if, if it moves this forward and people feel more comfortable with making sure that as much of the questions that need to be asked is fine with me, but I think, I'd like to hear, what the recommendations are, and I may have, with
All right,
no
so without
objection. accept it.
objection, Commissioner Bush.
As a seconder, I have no objection. Yes.
Thank you,
included.
Commissioner. And we're going to stick to questions, not debate on the,
Correct. And I appreciate that. Thank you very much. And again, I may be redundant, but these are the issues that I felt were important. My question that I would like the committee to ferret out was, did these meetings actually occur? Who called the meetings? Who authorized payment for the meetings? And where or what is the work product of those meetings? That's my
Objection.
without objection, we'll add those to the motion.
You get that, John?
I'll have to listen to it again, but yeah.
Okay. Can we move to a vote, please? When you're ready, Mr. Clerk.
Could we just clarify what the yes and the no is, just to make sure we've had. we're
Yes
voting
is to refer it.
Go to a committee or for, a yes
Yes,
is to go to the committee?
go to the committee. No is
No is not.
not,
Okay.
correct.
Thank you.
Avedisian,
No.
Buell, Bush,
Yes.
Curry,
Tell us one more time what we're voting on.
We're voting on referring this to the Internal Audit Committee. A yes vote is for referral, a no vote is to not refer it to Audit Committee.
Yes.
Drake?
No.
Gardeau?
No.
Gentile?
Yes.
Healy?
Yes.
Hoffman? Holloway?
Yes.
Iono?
Yes.
Lester?
Yes.
Lewis? Magnan?
Pass.
Mandyke? Payne?
No.
Patel?
Yes.
Salemi?
Yes.
Sweezy? Taylor?
Yes.
Torres?
Yes.
Vecino?
Yes.
Wolf?
Yes.
Magnan's yes.
The ayes have it.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Excuse me, Madam Chairman.
Yes, Commissioner Taylor?
And I asked for advice of counsel on this. Is it appropriate for us to inquire of the chairman of the Internal Audit Committee when he can schedule a meeting at, or the earliest possible date of doing so?
If I may. The matters has now been referred, but I don't think it's out of order to add an additional
Why don't we just
caveat.
ask the
So
chair?
I think
Well, I
Commissioner
leave-
Vecino's on the phone, so
I leave it to the discretion of the chairman of the Internal Audit Committee to do so, but I think that we need to move this matter along. and not to let it-
Commissioner Vecino, can you speak to Commissioner Taylor's question, please?
Yes, Commissioner Taylor, this is Commissioner Vecino. I was going to have a conversation tomorrow with John Myrtle, our clerk, to set up a meeting either the end of this week or sometime next week. I'd like to get more details first before I set the meeting, but it'll be no later than next week.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Sweezy?
Has this committee met in the last 2 years? And
yes, was mid-2019.
19?
Yeah, and I would
It's been reappointed since then?
As part of-
Kate was the chairman, I believe, and Richard was the vice chairman, I believe. And I do not believe in these 2 years that we're in, under this term, we have elected a chairman and a vice
Well,
chairman.
absent an election, the sitting chair would continue, but there should be,
There will be an election
Should
at
be an
the
election.
first meeting for chairman and vice
we'll
chairman.
include that in the agenda for this upcoming meeting.
Just want to make that clear.
Yep.
Commissioner Payne?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chairman. I'd like to request that the chairman call the meeting in the evening so that the member town managers and mayors are invited and have an opportunity to sit with this internal audit committee to review what they come up with, please. Thank you.
You good? Okay, let's move on to item number 8, opportunity for general public comments. Okay, we'll move to item number 9, commissioner comments and questions. Commissioner Bush.
I would, in front of the board, I am humbled and I apologize for my statement earlier about any inappropriate action. It was completely uncalled for, unprofessional, and I apologize and I retract that statement.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Gardell.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I spent time this weekend reading the emails like others did, and I also did a little bit of research on who Attorney Sandler is, and what came up was an article from the Hartford Current from March 31st, 1997. This is 25 years ago, and the headline is, "Engaging Lobbyists Described as Generous, Abrasive." And it goes on to talk about how, and I would like this to be distributed as part of the meeting minutes from this, of the special meeting. Everyone should read this article, and it talks about here about fines from the state lobbying, the ethics. Here's one paragraph from it. Fines totaling $250,000, the most in state history, were levied against Sandler in the Meadows because they could not account for $100,000 in gifts from state employees and officials and their family members, mostly free and discounted tickets. Now, that's 25 years ago. Why the MDC is doing business with a cat like this is beyond me, all right? And I'd like to have folks get that article, please.
Thank you. Could you share it with the clerk, please? Do you mind? Okay. Commissioner, anybody else? Any other comments? Commissioner Sweezy?
Yeah, looking at some of the bills, and I'm not going to get in.
Sorry, Commissioner, could you speak into a mic?
Sure. Looking at some of the bills, and I'm not really going to get into them, but when I see 27, 28, 29, 210, 211 being billed every day, a total of over $4,000 for 5 straight days, and I don't know the names of other than 2, 3 people in all those meetings, and I don't see Jellison's name, and I don't see Chris Stone's name. I would like to have, because I am on the committee, Chris, I would like to just have a sample. I don't care what 3 months you give me in 2020, when Jim did have a contract with us. I don't care which, I want to see what he did for the 80, it was 300, and I want to know for the last 10 years now, how much Jim has made after reading what Pete just showed me. I believe he was making $300,000 a year. I want to know what he did for that, because I don't remember in all the years that I've been on this board, him ever coming in front of us and telling us what he was working on for that amount of money. So tell me the last 10 years, how much he has made.
Yeah, 3 months.
And give me a sample of 3 months in 2019, 2018, I don't care what year you give me. Just give me a sample.
I just want to be clear. You want all the bills for the last 10 years?
No.
Okay,
I want to
I'm
know
sorry.
total dollar amount.
Sorry, I'm sorry, thank you.
What we have paid
Thank you.
his firm.
Yep, and then a
And
sample.
I want a sample of, I don't care, 18, 19, of 3 months. I
You got
don't
it.
care what 3 months, you can pull them out.
Right, okay.
Just give them to me, so I want to see what kind of work he's done. Because I don't see anything on these bills that has to do with the MDC. And I did talk to my mayor today, and I showed her these bills and talked about these bills. Where did the town of Rocky Hill benefit from anything to do with this? And I have a memo here from Scott Jellison that said, stop spending money, signed 8/17/21. And if you look at the bills, the next day, money was spent or billed. Maybe not spent, but billed.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Commissioner Hoffman?
Thank you, Madam Chairman, excuse me. I try, as a representative on this body, to listen to input from fellow commissioners, and we've had some spirited responses tonight, which is fine. I think what we need to do is recognize that this meeting is not only public, but it's being broadcast. And so I would not want any one viewer, listener, to experience a snippet of what took place tonight. Not that the whole wasn't useful. But remember, we sort of live for a snippet. And I don't think that, given the parameters that we set up at the beginning of this meeting and through the meeting, that we've really set ourselves up for a totally useful and careful, deliberative conversation. And so I have no predetermined notion about these invoices that have become the subject of an inquiry, But it seems that we just sort of spill what we think is important information. And I think we just have to be very careful that all of us, as representatives of town government to whatever degree, that we're careful about how we pass information back and forth. And so I don't have any dispute with any particular piece of information exchanged or proposed or offered, but we have to be careful because these are people who have a reputation or not, to whatever degree, and we've dealt with this fellow before, for good, bad, or otherwise. So this is not an unknown quantity or quality. So again, I just want to emphasize that we need to recall and remember our responsibility in our job, and whether we serve on the audit committee or not, we serve on the board. And, excuse me.
Excuse me, Commissioners, could you give the floor back to Commissioner Hoffman?
We serve on this board, and we do have a responsibility to answer to our appointed authorities. So there's a lot at stake, and much of this conversation, I would assume, probably belongs in an executive session, if anywhere. So, to go back to the beginning where an exchange was offered about, were we called, were we informed, whatever those particulars might be. No, I was not informed. No, I was not called. I have the same information that all other commissioners have, which are electronically messaged to everybody on the board, whether it's from the council or from the clerk or whomever it might be. We all get the information. We all know what's in that information. So there is a responsibility, though, to go back to one of the original questions: are we going to spend money or stop spending money? And we have information that we've heard, and verified that, yes, we did take a vote on a motion to stop spending. But remember, in our charter, in our rules and so forth, we do have exceptions that are made where individuals are allowed to make unilateral decisions up to a certain point. So, again, we need to be a little bit careful about how we're defining who can do what and why they did it or didn't do it. It just becomes a little bit of a spider web, I think, that we all ought to take a step back. And since we voted to move this forward to the Audit Committee, that's what we did. So there it is. Let's take the process and move right through it.
Thank you,
But-
Commissioner. Oh,
Be careful what you say.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Manday.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Commissioner Mandyke here. I just want to ask a few things of staff, and that is before the Audit Committee meet, that we look through the billing and commissioners or staff that have been included in those bills since January 1st be contacted to ask whether or not they were actually present at those calls and/or meetings. So we have a record of if they actually attended or were in on those calls. And the second item, Madam Chair, if I could, I was hoping that we could get a date for the Committee on Organization. I believe many of you remember at the last board meeting, I asked that we establish a conflict of interest statement that I believe we went through, needs to go through the Committee on Organization. I would hope that that would happen before our next full board meeting in September, that we could sit down, hash that out, and look at that to be able to propose it to the board.
Thank you. Are there any other questions or comments from commissioners? Commissioner Payne.
Thank you, Commissioner Payne here. I want to tell Commissioner Taylor that I appreciated his comments earlier, and through you, Madam Chairman, I have a question. It sounded to me that Commissioner Taylor gave the impression that he was not at any of the meetings that his name was referenced. Was wondering if he could clarify that if he chooses.
I can't clarify it at this point because I haven't looked at all the bills. I don't know,
Okay, thank you.
okay? I mean, I just don't know.
Next question. Thank you very much, Commissioner Taylor. The next question is concerning Attorney Sandler. This is not the first time we've asked him to come to a meeting to clarify invoices. How do we know, Commissioner, how do we know that Attorney Sandler is going to come to our next meeting when we request him, since he's already failed to come to 2 meetings? How are we going to solve that problem? I'd like to know that.
Well, I will certainly, he was invited to attend tonight's meeting. He will be, I will speak with him and follow up with an email to make sure that nothing I say is misunderstood. But I will speak to him in very strong terms that his presence at an audit committee meeting to be determined by that committee is required. We also have the ability to retain outside consultants or investigators, attorneys, if that was the choice of the committee and the board with obviously a recommended budget, but and they would have the ability to meet with Attorney Sandler. And listen, if he chooses not to meet, I hate to go the route of issuing subpoenas to attend public meetings. And that'll be up to the board whether they direct me to do, or the committee whether they direct me to do that or not. But I truly think that he has an obligation to present his bills and defend his bills. And if he wants the opportunity to do that, so be it. If he doesn't exercise that opportunity, then there's an easy solution for this board. And I won't suggest what it is, but I think you can all read between the lines. So, but that's his choice.
Thank you.
That's his choice.
That answers my question. I appreciate it, Madam Chairman. I have a few other questions. One, chairman's actual authority? It's been said tonight that individuals can make decisions without the full board, almost. Is that true or false? Because my impression of what's read in the charter is that the chairman can only carry out what this board has authorized him to do so. Am I wrong, or am I correct?
If you're referring, are you referring to the $25,000 rule, Commissioner Payne? I don't remember a statement, I just don't remember a statement
No,
about the authority of the chairman to spend money. There is a rule in the books that for expenditures under $25,000, and the administration and my office has the authority to expend those monies as we deem necessary. They're for one time, one person, one project per year. That, we have that authority. Anything above that has to be publicly vetted, bid, goes through Kelly Shane and procurement, and at some point it comes to the board either as part of a budget annually, or if it's not part of the budget, we go to the Board of Finance for the additional appropriation, and then to the board for approval. We did that with the $50,000 that was allotted to the land disposition exercise that is now within the Water Bureau. You approved that back in, I think it was May of this year. Board of Finance approved it in February, and that is just designated for future expenses relating to the disposition of land. And even for me to expend any monies on that, or from that account, I have to come back to the board and report that to the board. So that's an exception to the $25,000 rule that you've created.
Yeah, I was referring to the chairman, what authority he has.
The chairman the chairman is the chairman of this board. He's a commissioner. And no commissioner, chairman or otherwise, has authority to commit district funds in any amount.
All right, and then did you, Commissioner Stone, authorize those bills in 2022 after August 17th, 21, when Scott said, and this board said, no more bills? Did you make any authorizations?
I'll give you, the short answer is no.
That's all.
Because I didn't see him.
Okay.
And I had no authority to do it.
No problem. And Scott, same question. Did you authorize any of those bills?
No.
Okay. And Scott, if you could, there were some invoices that you explored concerning Randazzo, staff member. There was about 6 invoices that you asked one of your staff members if they attended. Could you briefly talk about that and tell us the outcome?
Sure. So I think Commissioner Sweezy mentioned the $14,000 bill, yes, which we received. And I want to say that I know I have it here in front of me, but I think it was June timeframe. And I had staff review that. There's 2 problems with that bill. My discussions, as it's, on the bill, my discussions with the chairman and Commissioner Salemi was no more spending money on the land acquisitions until we bring it in front of the board. So that's August 17th. So anything after August 17th, you would expect that there should be no charges, right? The latest set of bills that Chris Stone received, which you all have, there was an additional $8,900 that was as part of that package. So again, it would fall to that August 17th date, and also by the actions referenced in the board, I think it was November 3rd and January 10th. But no more spending money, right? But in that $12,000 and in the $8,900 bill specific to land surplus, I did ask my staff, Jim Randazzo, if he, was part of those meetings. I think I forwarded you the emails that said no. The last input that Jim Randazzo had with Mr. Sandler was April of 2021, I think is the date. So I hope that answers your question.
So the meetings never took place then?
Commissioner, I don't know if the meetings took place.
Well, you said in one of your emails that on 2/1/22 and 3/14/2022, that one of your staff members did not participate in those 2 meetings.
Correct.
Is that correct?
That's correct.
Thank you.
Commissioner Sweezy.
Two things. Seeing you were talking about that, could you tell me what the $12,785.50 bill on your same email of June 8th, 2022, why we paid that bill? You don't have to tell me now, okay? It's $12,785. It's your June 8th email. What that bill was for and why we paid it. You can give it to us before the meeting. I don't need it now. And the other thing is, I think we could have resolved all this tonight. I don't think anyone really has a conflict, Al, Buddy. Their names might be once or twice in a teleconference, I don't know. But my main goal was to find out why we were billed from Jim for things that I don't understand at all. And I wanted a motion made where those bills would not be paid. I mean, that's all I was looking for tonight, basically, that the bills not be paid until he, proves to you he's owed the money, and he doesn't have a contract with us, and it doesn't happen in the future that we don't hire anyone. It doesn't have to be an attorney. It could be an engineering firm. It could be a consultant. That this does not happen without coming to the board, the full board, for discussion. And that's all I was looking for tonight, and I think that could have been resolved tonight instead of going to an audit committee and making this a big thing. I mean, you guys want to make it big? We can make it big, because we have the information. But we could have resolved it very easily tonight. Thank you.
I don't know what he's asking.
I'm going to give it to you. I'll give you a copy.
Okay, I just like to clarify which bills you're referring to. That's all.
I'm referring to your emails from Scott Jellison, Wednesday, June 8th, 2022, to Chris Stone. Subject, Sandler bills. Also, Jim has already billed and been paid by the MDC $12,785. I believe that was over and above. Is it $85,000 his contract last time he worked for us?
So, Commissioner, let me just clarify, and I've already reported this to the board, to Board of Finance, to Water Bureau, that I did in fact pay 2 invoices. One was dated May 26, 2021 for $89,3750 and $3,848 on June 27, 2021. I've already reported to the board that I paid that. And then subsequent to, moving forward, I asked them to stop billing on the land. So I paid that with a PO because Mr. Stone did not have the funds for that work that was associated with the land issue.
I'm just asking Scott what that was for.
I just want to make sure.
I want an itemized bill what that was for. If we're going to get into this full time now.
I wasn't finished, Madam Chairman, if I can.
Okay, I think we're getting into the
Just
work of the committee.
Just
so-
have a quick.
Okay.
We didn't receive all the emails. I don't believe we've received all emails from Jim or the chairman. Will we be getting those?
As you know, I've requested the emails from Attorney Sandler. He indicated that he would get those to me. I do not have them yet. As to the chairman, we have not received any emails from the chairman. We do have a email search function at the NBC. We're checking his email with his consent to call out any emails that were sent to his NBC email address.
Is he on our email account? Is he on our MDC email?
He has an MDC email, correct.
He's using a MDC email solely for MDC business?
That I don't know. I know he has another email that he uses as well.
Does the MDC pay for another email, or does it MDC pay for
Not to my knowledge, no. The MDC.
Yahoo account?
The MDC has, the MDC has, pays for or operates an email address for all commissioners, including Chairman DeBella. As to the Yahoo account, I don't know the cost, and it's certainly whatever it is, we don't pay for it.
All I'm saying is, I think if he's using personal email, we need to request those emails, and I think the district council needs to get those, please. Thank you.
Thank you. I believe we've reached a point for a motion of adjournment.
So moved.
All right, thank you. We are adjourned. And I just want to say thank you for this evening, and as we move forward, I know this is a difficult topic and issue for all of us, and I ask us to remain respectful of each other and each other's positions. Thank you.
See you again.
You're going to be